Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to go through a quarterly review of games played in the fourth quarter of 2025. I'm going to talk about the games that I played and give you the stats for those last 3 months of the year, and also highlight some of my favorites. If you'd like to hear about that, stay tuned. Well, on this screen, you can see the month-by-month breakdown. October wasn't bad, given that there weren't any big breaks from school, but I am starting a board game club slowly at school, and we had a few flex times where I was able to teach some students some new board games. November was a little low. I was surprised with the Thanksgiving break. We didn't get more played, but just didn't turn out. And then December, with the holiday break there, we got a lot more games played. So here you can see the games that I played in that quarter. 37 different games, 71 gameplays. 14 were new to me games, and the other 23 were ones that were returning to the table for me. 20 of the 37 games were in physical form, and 17 are games that I only played on BGA. And I used to go through these one by one. I also used to try to cover it every month. And I've just found that there's usually a lot of repetition, probably a little less so in this quarter than typical, but month by month I was often mentioning a lot of the same games. And so I'm going to try this quarterly approach, and instead of talking about all of them, I'm just going to highlight my 3 favorite new to me games and my 3 favorite returning to the table games. And I'm going to start with the returning to the table games because you probably have heard me talk about those before, so I'll just talk about them more briefly. But as we look at the games that are my favorite 3 returning to the table, one would be Planet Unknown. And Planet Unknown is a polyomino game. It's by Ryan Lambert and Adam Rayberg, and it's from Adam Apple Games. And this is just a really fun game where you've got both polyominoes that you're trying to place out on the board. But as you place those polyomino tiles, you're also going to be moving up tracks on a different board. And so these tracks here are going to give you different powers and abilities as you move up, or as you place the tiles there, you'll move up on these tracks. And you're trying to fill up as many columns and rows on this planet as you can with your tiles, and you earn points by filling those up. You also earn points by how high up you get on these tracks. And meanwhile, there's asteroids, and you've got to use your rovers to remove those asteroids from the board, and lots of little fun things to experiment with as you play this game. But really enjoy Planet Unknown. I think the production quality is great, and it's a pretty easy game for people to learn. And that's one reason that I've enjoyed it. I'm actually getting ready to teach it to my board game club soon. So that was my 3rd favorite return to the table games. The second is Orleans. And as I take a look at this game by Reiner Stockhausen and DLP Games, although many different publishers, as you can see, have had their hands on this one. And you can see here there's different tracks that you're working up to earn these different tokens, which then go in your bag. So it's a bag builder. Then you're going to be drawing those tokens out each turn. And as you draw them out, let's see if we can find another picture here. As you draw them out, you're going to be taking certain functions or actions, and some of those will help you to move on this track and to build on this track. If we look at a couple others here, let's see, there we go. So the actions you're going to be taking are how you place your tokens up on this board that's shown here in the top of the screen. It doesn't show the whole board, but you're going to be choosing, like if you do a red and a black and a white one, then you can take this action. And so you're going to be picking the actions you want to take and putting your tokens there. And then sometimes you can also permanently give up your tokens over on this sideboard here to gain end-game scoring and other benefits. And you're basically in the end trying to also move across this bottom track on the main board, which is a main multiplier for how you get your final end-game scoring. So it is very much a Euro with a lot of different things going on, but while I don't necessarily typically like a lot of luck in games, and some bag builders have a lot of luck, this one I feel like gives you enough control in the way that you can send those tiles out to that one board to forever be lost. And so they're not filling your bag. And then there's also some wild monk tiles you can put in there. There's just a lot of ways you can mitigate it. And there are some times you might have kind of an unlucky turn, but I feel like most of the time you have pretty good control over that. So Orleans, my 2nd favorite back to the table. My favorite back to the table was Galactic Cruise. And Galactic Cruise is an amazing Euro game that has a lot of theme built into its design. And the theme comes through in the way the manual is written, the theme comes through in the art, the theme comes through in the gameplay. It is a very much, you have to do step 1 before you can do step 2, before you can do step 3. But there's like a 1A, 1B, 1C, and a 2A, 2B, 2C. And so you don't necessarily have a too prescribed list of things you have to accomplish. You have some flexibility. And sometimes the way you get cards and the way the tiles show out on the middle part of the board. So this middle part of the board where you see these gears, when you take your action, if you have gears connecting them, you could take actions from 2 different adjacent ones connected by a gear. So having that ability to change the game every time by what shows up in those 6 positions here, that's something that's going to be different. And so every game you're trying to figure out what are the best combos and how can I do step 1A and then 2B and then 3A, and to get everything just in order to build the best cruise ships to send people out into space so they can have an amazing time on your cruise and you can be the best cruise line manager for Galactic Cruise. So I love the theme, I love the art, the production is terrific. Even the first player token is a lanyard for your work. Really cool stuff. So that is my favorite not new to me game. Now of the new to me games, there were quite a few, but I'm actually going to pick this one, Exit the Game Kids Jungle of Riddles, as my third favorite. And it is a very simple game. There's actually a bunch of little mini games, and we played it with the grandkids over the holiday, and they had just a really good time. They took turns. We had to figure out how to manage that. They took turns, and so each different puzzle we were trying to solve, one of the different grandkids got to kind of be in charge and decide how we were going to do that, but they could all give help and they could all give suggestions, but one person got to make their decisions as our final decision. And so that was a lot of fun. They really liked it. It also went pretty quickly, and in the future, now that we know how some of those mini games work, and they are if you've ever played an exit game for adults, they are very much like that, but simpler. So now that we know how some of those work, we can maybe more strategically say, okay, the 4-year-old gets to be in charge of this one and the 10-year-old gets to be in charge of that one. But yeah, we had a really good time with it, and it was a pretty quick opportunity to just enjoy time, and all the grandkids could play at once. So that was a lot of fun. That was my third favorite. Probably less so for the quality of the game and more so just because of the experience it gave us. Next, second on the list is Orbit. And I tend to like Reiner Knizia games, and this one with Vincent Dutrait art and by Bite Wings Games is one of those that's super simple to play. You're going to play a card and do what it says. You're going to move planets. You're going to move your person. You're going to gain energy, use energy, lose energy. You're basically just moving around this board. You're trying to visit all of the planets, and you've got this little spaceship. So the planets are moving, you're moving. You try to visit all of them while managing your energy, manipulating your cards. Energy is represented by these cubes. And then you've got energy boosts and card boosts and all kinds of things that you can gain. And there's times when you can be really mischievous, and you can turn a ship or turn a planet around its orbit so that it's going away from someone trying to get there. You can also ride on the planets. If you're on the planet when it moves, you go with it. All different kinds of things. There's different abilities where you can zoom from one side to the other of the board. We really had a good time. We laughed and we found some interesting, tricky things to try. We've only played it that one time, but I do look forward to getting it back to the table again, and that is Orbit, my second favorite new to me game. And my number one favorite new to me game is Santa's Workshop. This came in, I think, the day before Christmas. And so we played it a couple times after Christmas and leading up into New Year's. And my wife and I played it, and then we also played it. I think I forgot to record one of our plays, but because my wife and I played it to learn it and found that's pretty easy. I think we could play this with the grandkids. So then we played it with our granddaughter who lives here with us, and she picked up on it right away. And then we played with our other granddaughter who was visiting over the break, and she also did great with it. But it's basically a worker placement game, and you are trying to, decorate a tree, and you're trying to build toys, and there's these cards that represent toys that tell you how you're supposed to build them. Let's see if I can find some of those cards. There's a timer in the game. You can see the decorations on the tree here. This timer is Santa Claus moving across, and so you've got 3 turns every round, and there's 3 rounds, and then you see who has the most points. And you got to take care of the reindeer. You have to make toys. You've got to gather all those resources in order to make the toys. Everyone has their own cool little meeples to represent their elves that are working for Santa. There are 2 versions of this. We just played the simple version because we were playing with the grandkids. And yeah, here we go. Sled. 12 points. You need 2 of these blueprints. You need 3 woods, the brown ones. You need 3 steels and 1 fabric, the purple one there. So once you've gathered all those things, you can say you've completed the sled, and then you're going to earn those points. And then at the end of the 3 rounds, or the 3 turns, when you get to the end of the round, then you're going to have kind of a mid scoring or a round scoring as well. But we really enjoyed our games. Again, this is probably somewhat affected by the fact that we got to enjoy these games with our grandkids and play something that was a little bit more complicated and a little bit more thinky and enjoyable for us as adults than just the standard kids games that we often play with them. So I'm sure that that factored into both the Exit game and the Santa's Workshop game ranking in the top 3 of the new to me games for the month, or the months of the 4th quarter of 2025. So I'd love to see in the comments down below which of these games are some of your favorites. I didn't really have very many games that I wouldn't really want to go back to. There are a couple on BGA I probably wouldn't take the time to go back to, but most of them I at least enjoyed, and some of them were quite good. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. As you look at my list of games, tell me your reflections as well. And also just tell me what you got to play, especially around that holiday season or towards the end of 2025. What were some of your gaming highlights? As always, thanks for watching. This is Bill, Indiana, signing off.